I pressed my ear against the cold wooden door, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribcage. My father's voice drifted through the crack, and every word felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. Victor Hardwick agreed to take him. He'll clear all our debts in exchange for the Omega. My mother laughed. Actually laughed. Thank God. I never thought that useless boy would be worth anything. At least he can finally contribute something to this family. My legs trembled beneath me. Victor Hardwick. Even I knew that name. Everyone in our district whispered about him in fearful tones. An alpha who collected Omegas like trophies and broke them for sport. The ones who survived his attention came back hollow, their eyes empty of everything that once made them human. And my parents just sold me to him. I stumbled backward, my hand clamping over my mouth to muffle the sob threatening to escape. 22 years of being told I was worthless, of being treated like a burden, of wondering why my own parents looked at me with such disgust. Now I knew. I was never their son. I was just currency waiting to be spent. The floorboard creaked under my foot. I froze. Did you hear something? My father asked. I didn't wait to hear more. I ran to my room, my whole body shaking as I grabbed my old backpack. My hands fumbled as I stuffed clothes inside. A few shirts, jeans, my toothbrush. What do you pack when you're running for your life? I grabbed the small amount of money I'd saved from odd jobs, maybe enough for a few meals if I was careful. Downstairs, I heard glasses clinking. They were celebrating getting rid of me. Hot tears blurred my vision as I opened my window. The roof of the porch stretched below, slick with rain. I'd climbed out this way before, on nights when staying in this house felt like suffocating. But this time I wasn't coming back. I swung my legs over the windowsill, and the cold rain immediately soaked through my thin jacket. My feet hit the roof, and I nearly slipped. My heart lurched as I caught my balance, then carefully lowered myself over the edge, dropping into the bushes below. Pain shot through my ankle, but I bit down on my lip and forced myself to move. I couldn't stop. Not now. I ran. The rain pelted my face, mixing with my tears until I couldn't tell which was which. The streets were dark and empty, the only light coming from flickering street lamps that barely pushed back the shadows. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to get far away. My lungs burned as I pushed myself harder, my wet clothes clinging to my skin. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow looked like someone coming to drag me back. I cut through alleys and side streets, my feet splashing through puddles, until I didn't recognize anything around me anymore. The buildings here were different. Taller. Cleaner. I'd run all the way to the east side of the city, where people with real money lived. Where people like me didn't belong. My legs finally gave out. I collapsed against a stone wall, gasping for air, my body shaking from cold and exhaustion and fear. What was I going to do? I had nowhere to go. No friends who could help me. No relatives who cared. I was completely alone. The rain started falling harder, and I curled into myself, trying to stay warm. My mind raced with horrible thoughts. Would my parents look for me? Would they send Victor Hardwick after me? How long before someone found me and dragged me back? I forced myself to stand. I couldn't stay here. I had to keep moving. But as I took a step forward, the world tilted. Black spots danced across my vision. When had I last eaten? Yesterday morning? My body was shutting down, running on nothing but fear and adrenaline, and now even that was fading. I stumbled forward, barely seeing where I was going. My feet carried me past iron gates and manicured lawns. Mansions loomed in the darkness like sleeping giants. Then my knees buckled. I fell hard onto wet pavement, my palms scraping against stone. I tried to push myself up, but my arms wouldn't cooperate. Everything hurt. Everything was cold. I was so tired. Through the rain, I saw lights. A massive house. Maybe if I could just reach the door, someone would help me. Or maybe they'd call the police and I'd be sent back home. Home. That word didn't mean safety. It meant pain. My vision blurred as I crawled forward. I made it a few more feet before my body completely gave up. I collapsed face down on cold stone, rain pooling around me. This is it, I thought dimly. This is how I die. As darkness pulled me under, I heard voices. Footsteps running toward me. Strong hands lifting me, and a deep voice saying something I couldn't quite hear. Then nothing. When consciousness tried to creep back in, I fought it. Waking up meant facing whatever came next, and I wasn't ready for that. But my body betrayed me, dragging me slowly back to awareness. I was warm. That was the first thing I noticed. warm and dry and lying on something soft. Not the wet pavement. Not the cold street. My eyes snapped open. The ceiling above me was ornate, with detailed molding and a crystal chandelier. Silk sheets covered me, and I was wearing clothes that weren't mine. Clean, soft clothes that smelled like expensive detergent. Panic seized my chest. Where was I? Who changed my clothes? What happened? I sat up too fast, and my head spun. The room around me was huge, decorated in dark woods and deep colors. Everything looked expensive. Everything screamed wealth and power. The door opened, and I scrambled backward, pressing myself against the headboard. A man stepped in. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see right through me. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than everything my parents owned. Power radiated from him like heat from a fire. An alpha. I could smell it on him, that commanding scent that made every Omega instinct in me want to submit. But I'd spent my whole life being pushed around. I wasn't going to start cowering now. Who are you? I demanded, hating how my voice shook. Where am I? The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. You collapsed outside my home. My men brought you inside. You've been unconscious for 6 hours. 6 hours. My parents definitely knew I was gone by now. I should leave, I said, throwing off the covers. I'm sorry for trespassing. I'll just sit down. It wasn't loud, but the command in his voice stopped me cold. Not because I had to obey, but because something in his tone made me pause. You're malnourished, dehydrated, and suffering from exhaustion, he continued, his dark eyes studying me. You're not going anywhere until you're stable. Then you can tell me why an Omega was running through my territory in the middle of the night, looking like death. His territory. Oh God, where exactly had I ended up? I just need to go, I whispered. Running from something, he observed. It wasn't a question. Or someone. I didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because saying it out loud would make it real. The alpha moved closer, and I pressed harder against the headboard. But he simply sat in the chair across from the bed, maintaining distance. My name is Damien Cross, he said quietly. And I think you should tell me your story. Damien Cross. The name hit me like a physical blow. Everyone knew that name. The most powerful crime boss in the city. The alpha who controlled half the underground operations, who people feared more than death itself. And I'd collapsed on his doorstep. The name Damien Cross echoed in my head like a death sentence. I stared at the man sitting across from me, trying to reconcile the rumors with reality. They said he killed people with his bare hands. That he showed no mercy to anyone who crossed him. That even other alphas trembled in his presence. But right now, he was looking at me with something I couldn't quite identify. Curiosity, maybe. Or concern. Neither made sense. I know what you've heard about me, Damien said, his voice calm and steady. I can see it written all over your face. You're terrified. I wanted to deny it, but my hands were shaking. Of course I was terrified. I'd escaped one monster only to land in the den of another. I'm not going to hurt you, he continued, leaning back in his chair. You're safe here. But I need to understand what I'm dealing with. Someone is looking for you, aren't they? How did he know that? Could he read minds too? I swallowed hard, my throat dry as sandpaper. I need water, I said, avoiding his question. Damien stood immediately and walked to a small bar in the corner. He poured water into a crystal glass and brought it to me, staying at arm's length as he held it out. I took it with trembling fingers and drank deeply, the cool liquid soothing my parched throat. Thank you, I whispered. What's your name? I hesitated. Giving him my name felt dangerous, like handing over a piece of myself I could never get back. But what choice did I have? He could find out easily enough if he wanted to. Kieran, I finally said. Kieran. He tested the name, and something about the way he said it made warmth spread through my chest. I'm going to ask you again. What were you running from? The glass shook in my hands. I set it down on the nightstand before I dropped it. Every instinct screamed at me to lie, to make up some story that wouldn't drag him into my mess. But looking into those dark eyes, I had the strange feeling that he'd know if I lied. My parents, I said quietly. They sold me. Damien's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Sold you to whom? Victor Hardwick. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Damien's jaw tightened, and his hands curled into fists. Victor Hardwick, he repeated, his voice low and deadly. That sadistic bastard bought you? I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. And your parents just agreed to this? The anger in his voice wasn't directed at me, but it still made me flinch. They handed their own son over to that monster? They needed money, I said, hating how weak I sounded. Gambling debts. I overheard them talking about it last night. They were celebrating, drinking champagne like they'd just won the lottery instead of selling their son to a man who destroys Omegas for fun. Damien stood abruptly and walked to the window. His shoulders were tense, his whole body radiating barely controlled rage. I watched him confused. Why did he care? I was nobody to him. Just some random Omega who collapsed on his property. Does Hardwick know you ran? He asked, still facing the window. I don't know. Probably. They were supposed to hand me over tomorrow night. Then he'll come looking. Damien turned back to face me, and his expression had shifted into something hard and calculating. Your parents will tell him you're missing. He'll search everywhere. He has connections throughout the city. Fear crashed over me like a wave. I should leave then. I can't stay here. If he finds out I'm with you, he won't touch you. The certainty in his voice stopped me mid-sentence. You don't understand, I said desperately. Victor Hardwick is dangerous. He has money and power and I have more of both, Damien interrupted calmly. Plus something he doesn't have. A reputation that makes grown men weep. If he comes for you, he'll have to go through me. And nobody is stupid enough to do that. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to so badly. But hope was a luxury I'd learned not to indulge in. Why would you help me? I asked. You don't even know me. Damien was quiet for a long moment, his gaze never leaving mine. When he spoke, his voice was softer than before. I know what it's like to be treated as worthless. To have the people who should protect you betray you instead. And I know that if I let you walk out that door right now, you'll be dead within a week. The words hit me like a punch to the gut because they were true. I had no money, no plan, nowhere to go. I'd been running on pure desperation and adrenaline, and now both were fading fast. I can't pay you, I said weakly. I'm not asking you to. He moved back to the chair and sat down. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay here until we figure out what to do about Hardwick and your parents. My staff will take care of you. You'll have your own room, food, clothes, whatever you need. In exchange, all I ask is that you don't leave the property without permission. It's for your own safety. It sounded too good to be true. There had to be a catch. People like Damien Cross didn't do anything without expecting something in return. What do you really want from me? I asked suspiciously. Something flickered across his face. Surprise maybe. Or respect. You're smarter than you look. But honestly, I don't know yet. All I know is that you're under my protection now. And I protect what's mine. What's mine? The words sent a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with fear. Before I could respond, there was a knock on the door. A woman in her 50s entered, carrying a tray of food. She had kind eyes and a warm smile that reminded me of the grandmother I'd never had. This is Rosa, Damien said. She manages the household. If you need anything, ask her. Rosa set the tray on my lap, and the smell of hot soup and fresh bread made my stomach growl loudly. I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten a real meal. You poor thing, Rosa said gently, her voice thick with an accent I couldn't place. Your skin and bones. We'll fix that soon enough. Eat, Damien ordered, though his tone was gentle. Then rest. We'll talk more later. He stood to leave, and panic suddenly gripped me. He was the only thing standing between me and Victor Hardwick. If he left, what if he didn't come back? What if this was all some cruel joke? Wait, I called out, hating how desperate I sounded. He paused at the door, looking back at me with raised eyebrows. You promise? I whispered. You promise you won't get me? Damien's expression softened in a way that transformed his entire face. For just a moment, he didn't look like the feared crime boss. He looked almost human, almost gentle. I promise, he said firmly. Victor Hardwick will never lay a hand on you. Neither will your parents. You have my word, and I never break my word. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with Rosa and a tray of food and a promise I didn't know if I could trust. Rosa patted my hand. Mr. Cross is a good man, despite what people say. If he says you're safe, then you're safe. Now eat before the soup gets cold. I lifted the spoon to my lips and tasted the best soup I'd ever had. Rich and warm and filling. As I ate, Rosa busied herself around the room, opening curtains to let in the morning light and laying out fresh towels. There's a bathroom through that door, she said, pointing. Take a hot shower when you're done eating. I'll bring you some proper clothes. You look about the same size as Mr. Cross's younger brother. He has a brother? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Rosa's smile faded slightly. He passed away 3 years ago. I'm sorry, I said quickly. I didn't mean to. It's all right, dear. You didn't know. She moved toward the door. I'll be back in an hour. Try to rest. After she left, I finished every drop of soup and every crumb of bread. Then I made my way to the bathroom on shaky legs. The shower was huge, with multiple shower heads and gleaming tile. I turned on the water and stood under the hot spray, letting it wash away the dirt and fear and exhaustion. But as the water ran over me, reality crashed down. I was in the home of the most dangerous man in the city. A man who could decide my fate with a single word. Yes, he'd promised to protect me, but at what cost? What would he expect in return? And why did part of me not care? Why did the memory of his voice saying, "What's mine," make my heart race in a way that had nothing to do with fear? I was so lost in thought that I didn't hear the alarm until it was blaring through the entire house. I shut off the water, my heart pounding. What was happening? Was it Victor? Had he found me already? I wrapped a towel around myself and opened the bathroom door. Voices shouted in the hallway. Running footsteps. Then Damien's voice, clear and commanding. Lock down the house. Nobody gets in or out. This was it. They'd come for me. And I'd just dragged Damien and his people into my nightmare. My hands shook as I pulled on the clothes Rosa had left on the bed. The alarm was still blaring, making my head pound with each piercing wail. I could hear heavy footsteps in the hallway and voices barking orders. This was my fault. Whatever was happening out there was because of me. I reached for the door handle just as it burst open. Damien stood there, his dark eyes scanning me quickly before settling on my face. He wasn't wearing a jacket anymore, and I could see a gun holster strapped across his chest. "Get away from the door," he said, his voice sharp and commanding. "What's happening? Is it Victor? Did he find me?" The words tumbled out in a panicked rush. "Not Victor." Damien stepped inside and closed the door behind him. "Your parents are at the gate. They tracked you here." My blood ran cold. "How? How did they find me?" "Your phone." His expression darkened. "It was still in your backpack. They must have used a tracking app. My men found it when they went through your belongings for security reasons. I had them destroy it immediately, but the damage is done." "Of course. My phone." I'd been so panicked when I ran that I didn't think to leave it behind. My parents had always been controlling, insisting I keep location services on for safety. Now I understood why. "I'm so stupid," I whispered, pressing my palms against my eyes. "I led them right to you. You didn't know." Damien's voice softened slightly. "And it doesn't matter now. They're here, demanding I return their son. They brought 2 police officers with them and are threatening to file a missing persons report." My stomach dropped. "You should let me go. I don't want to cause you trouble. If the police get involved, the police in this city know better than to interfere with my business." Damien moved closer, and his presence filled the room. "But I need to know something, Kieran. Are you legally an adult?" "Yes. I turned 22 3 months ago." Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "Then they have no legal claim to you. You're an adult who can make your own decisions." He paused, studying my face. "The question is, what do you want to do?" What did I want? I wanted to never see my parents again. I wanted to forget they existed. But most of all, I wanted to stop being afraid. "I don't want to go back," I whispered. "I'd rather die than go back to that house." Damien's expression softened slightly. "Then you won't. Stay here. Don't come out until I tell you it's safe." He turned to leave, but I grabbed his arm without thinking. The moment my fingers touched his skin, a jolt of electricity shot through me. His scent wrapped around me, stronger now, making my Omega instincts scream at me to submit, to trust, to let this alpha protect me. "Please," I said, my voice breaking. "Don't let them take me." Damien's hand covered mine, warm and steady. "I gave you my word, Kieran, and I keep my promises." Then he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him. I pressed my ear against it, trying to hear what was happening. The alarm had finally stopped, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Minutes crawled by like hours. Then I heard voices downstairs. My father's voice, loud and angry. My mother's shrill tone. And underneath it all, Damien's voice, calm and cold as ice. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear. My parents were angry. Damien was unmoved. Suddenly, there was a crash. Something breaking. My mother screamed, and my father shouted something I couldn't understand. Then footsteps pounded up the stairs. The door flew open, and my father stood there, his face red with rage. Behind him, I could see two men in suits trying to pull him back. "You ungrateful little bastard," my father snarled. "Do you know what you've done? Victor Hardwick is going to kill us. We owe him money, and you were supposed to be the payment. Get out," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "You're coming home right now." He lunged forward, but the two men grabbed him, yanking him backward. "I'm not going anywhere with you." The words felt powerful on my tongue. "I'm an adult. You can't force me." My mother appeared behind him, tears streaming down her face. But they weren't tears of sadness or regret. They were tears of fury. "After everything we did for you," she shrieked. "We fed you, clothed you, gave you a roof over your head. And this is how you repay us. You sold me." The words exploded out of me. "You were going to hand me over to a monster who tortures Omegas. You celebrated like it was the best day of your lives. We had no choice," my father roared. "We needed the money. And when you disappeared, Victor called us. He knows you ran. He knows we can't deliver. Do you understand what that means?" Ice flooded my veins. "He already knows?" "Of course he knows." My mother's voice cracked. "We were supposed to bring you to him this morning. When we went to your room and found you gone, we had no choice but to tell him. Now he wants his money back, plus interest for the inconvenience. Money we don't have. So Victor Hardwick already knew I'd escaped. He was probably searching for me right now. And my parents had used my phone to track me here, leading them straight to Damien's door. Then you should have thought about that before you gambled it away." I was shaking now, but not from fear. From rage. Years of bottled-up anger and pain were finally breaking free. "I don't owe you anything. You were never parents to me. You were jailers." Damien appeared in the doorway, and the temperature in the room dropped. His eyes were dark and dangerous, and when he spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. "I'm going to give you one chance to leave peacefully," he said to my parents. "Take it." My father opened his mouth to argue, but one look at Damien's face made him snap it shut. Even through his rage, he wasn't stupid enough to challenge the most powerful alpha in the city. "This isn't over," my mother hissed at me. "Victor Hardwick won't let this go. He already has people looking for you. When he finds out you're here with Damien Cross, there's going to be war." "Let there be war," Damien said coldly. "Now get out of my house before I forget I'm trying to be civilized." The two men in suits dragged my parents toward the stairs. My mother was still screaming threats, my father still cursing. But they were leaving. Actually leaving. I sank onto the bed, my legs too weak to hold me up anymore. Damien dismissed his men with a gesture and closed the door, leaving us alone. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know about the phone. I didn't mean to. Don't apologize." He sat down in the chair across from me. "You were running for your life. You weren't thinking about tracking devices. That's understandable. But now Victor knows I ran. And when my parents tell him where I am, they won't." Damien's voice was certain. "They're too afraid of me to mention my name to Hardwick. They'll tell him you disappeared and they don't know where you went. Trust me." I wanted to believe him, but fear still coiled in my stomach. What if they do tell him? Then he'll come here. Damien leaned forward, his intense gaze pinning me in place. "And I'll show him exactly what happens to people who try to take what's mine." There it was again. That possessive word. Mine. It should have scared me. Instead, it made warmth bloom in my chest. "You're going to go after Victor Hardwick?" I asked quietly. I was planning to anyway. He operates in my territory, deals in things I don't tolerate. Your parents just gave me the perfect excuse to move against him. His eyes darkened. "And now that I know he thinks he can buy and sell you like property, I'm going to enjoy destroying him." Something in my chest cracked open. This dangerous, powerful alpha was willing to go to war for me. A worthless Omega nobody wanted. Except he wanted me. He'd made that clear. "What happens next?" I asked. Damien stood and walked to the door. When he looked back at me, there was something fierce and possessive in his eyes that made my breath catch. "Next, I make some calls. I have people who owe me favors, and it's time to collect." He paused. "You stay here safe while I handle this. Can you do that?" The way he said my name made warmth flood through me. I nodded. "Good." He opened the door. "Rosa will bring dinner. Tomorrow, things are going to get very interesting." After he left, I lay back and stared at the ceiling. My parents knew where I was but were too afraid to tell Victor. Damien was going to protect me, and I was falling for him. God help me, I was falling for the most dangerous man in the city. 3 days passed in a strange blur of safety and tension. I spent my time in Damien's mansion like a bird in a gilded cage, beautiful but confined. Rosa brought me meals 3 times a day, each one better than the last. The guest room had become my sanctuary, filled with books Damien had sent up and clothes that actually fit me. But I barely saw Damien himself. He was always in meetings, always on phone calls, always planning something. I caught glimpses of him in hallways, heard his voice through closed doors. Each time, my heart would race and my Omega instincts would pull me toward him like a moth to flame. It was driving me crazy. On the 4th morning, I woke up feeling strange. My skin was too hot, too sensitive. The sheets felt rough against my body, and there was an ache low in my belly that made me curl into myself. Panic seized my chest as realization crashed over me. No, not now. Please not now. My heat was coming. It shouldn't be for another 2 weeks, but stress could trigger it early. The fear, the running, the upheaval of my entire life had thrown my body into chaos. And now I was going into heat in the home of an alpha I barely knew, but desperately wanted. I stumbled out of bed, my legs shaky. I needed to tell someone. Needed to warn them. Damien needed to know so he could stay away from me. The last thing I wanted was to force him into something, because of my biology. I made it to the door and pulled it open, only to find Damien standing in the hallway, his hand raised as if about to knock. His eyes widened as my scent hit him, and I watched his pupils dilate. "Kieran," he said, his voice rough. I know." I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to hold back the trembling. "I'm sorry. It's early. The stress must have triggered it. I need suppressants. Please, do you have any suppressants?" Damien's jaw clenched, and I could see him fighting for control. His alpha instincts were probably screaming at him to claim me, to take me right there in the hallway. But he stepped back, putting distance between us. "We don't keep suppressants here. I'll send someone to get them." His voice was strained. "Can you make it a few hours?" I nodded, even though I wasn't sure. The heat was building fast, faster than it ever had before. My body recognized Damien as a powerful, compatible alpha, and it wanted him with a desperation that terrified me. "Go back inside," Damien ordered. "Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but Rosa." "What about you?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. Something dangerous and hungry flashed in his eyes. "Especially not me. Not unless you want me to do something we'll both regret." He turned and walked away quickly, and I stumbled back into my room, locking the door behind me. I pressed my back against it and slid down to the floor, my whole body shaking. The ache was getting worse, spreading through my limbs like fire. Time became meaningless. Minutes or hours could have passed. I alternated between burning up and shivering, my body at war with itself. I tried to take a cold shower, but it only provided temporary relief. My mind kept drifting to Damien, imagining his hands on my skin, his scent surrounding me, his voice whispering my name. A knock on the door made me jump. "Kieran, it's Rosa." I crawled to the door and unlocked it. Rosa entered quickly, carrying a medical bag. Her expression was worried as she helped me back to the bed. "The pharmacy was out of suppressants," she said gently. "There's a shortage right now. But I brought some fever reducers and pain medication. It's not much, but it might help." My eyes filled with tears. "How long will this last? A heat without a partner?" "Usually 3 to 5 days. Rosa's face was sympathetic. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Is there anyone you trust who could help you through it?" The only person I wanted was the one person I couldn't have. Damien had made it clear he was staying away. And I couldn't blame him. He'd offered me protection, not a bond. Asking him to help me through my heat would be asking for too much. "No," I whispered. "There's no one." Rosa gave me the medication and a bottle of water. "I'll check on you every few hours. Try to rest." After she left, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, feeling more alone than ever. The medication dulled the pain slightly, but it couldn't touch the emptiness inside me. My Omega instincts were crying out for an alpha, for connection, for completion. And the only alpha I wanted was on the other side of that door, staying away because he was a good man. Night fell, and the heat intensified. I was burning from the inside out, my body slick with sweat. I'd stripped down to almost nothing, but it wasn't enough. Nothing was enough. Then I heard it. Footsteps outside my door. Pacing back and forth. Back and forth. "Damien." My voice came out weak and desperate. The pacing stopped. "I shouldn't be here." His voice was rough, tortured. "I should be on the other side of the mansion. But I can smell you, Kieran. Even from a distance, I can smell your heat, and it's driving me insane. I crawled off the bed and moved to the door, pressing my palm against the wood. I don't want to be alone, I admitted. I'm scared. Don't say that. There was agony in his voice. Don't tell me you're scared. Don't make me want to come in there and hold you. Would that be so bad? The heat was making me brave, stripping away all my defenses. You said I was yours. You said you protect what's yours. This is different. I heard him lean against the door. If I come in there, I won't be able to stop myself. I'll claim you. I'll bond with you. And you deserve better than a bond formed because of biology. Tears streamed down my face. What if I want it? What if I want you? Silence stretched between us, heavy and thick. When Damien finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. You don't know what you're saying. The heat is talking, not you. The heat is making me honest. I pressed my forehead against the door. I've wanted you since the moment I woke up in your house. Since you promised to protect me. Since you looked at me like I was worth something. The heat didn't create these feelings, Damien. It just made them impossible to hide. I heard him suck in a sharp breath. Kieran, I trust you, I interrupted. I trust you more than I've trusted anyone in my entire life. So please stop protecting me from yourself and just come in here. Help me. Be with me. Choose me. The lock clicked. The door opened slowly. Damien stood there, his dark eyes blazing with barely controlled desire and something deeper. Something that looked like the same desperate need I felt. If I do this, he said, his voice low and dangerous, there's no going back. You'll be mine completely. Forever. Is that what you want? I reached for him with a trembling hand. Yes. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. In 2 strides, he was in front of me, his hands cupping my face. His touch was gentle despite the tension in his body, despite the hunger in his eyes. I tried to stay away, he whispered. I tried to be strong. But you're making that impossible. Good, I breathed. I don't want you to be strong. I want you to be mine. Something broke in him. His control shattered like glass. He pulled me against him, and his scent wrapped around me like a blanket. For the first time in days, the ache eased slightly. This was what I needed. Not medication. Not suppressants. Him. I'll take care of you, Damien promised against my hair. Through this heat and every one after. You'll never go through this alone again. His lips found mine, and the world exploded into sensation. The heat, the need, the desperate wanting all converged into one perfect moment. I was his, and he was mine. And tomorrow, we'd face whatever came together. But tonight, we had each other. And that was enough. I woke up wrapped in warmth and safety. Damien's arms were around me, his chest pressed against my back, his steady breathing tickling the nape of my neck. The bond between us hummed like a living thing, connecting our hearts and souls in a way I'd never imagined possible. My heat had finally broken sometime during the night. My body was sore but satisfied, and for the first time in my life, I felt complete. Whole. Like I'd found the missing piece of myself I didn't know I was looking for. Damien stirred behind me, his arms tightening slightly. You're awake, he murmured, his voice rough with sleep. Yeah. I turned in his arms to face him. His dark hair was messy, his usually sharp eyes soft with contentment. He looked younger like this, more human. How long was I out? 2 days. Your heat was intense. His hand came up to cup my cheek. How do you feel? Good. Better than good, actually. I leaned into his touch. The bond, I know. His thumb brushed across my cheek. I feel it too. You're mine now, Kieran. Completely and permanently mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have scared me. Instead, it made me feel safe. Protected. Wanted. And you're mine, I said softly. Something fierce and tender flashed in his eyes. Yes, I am. Before I could say anything else, there was a sharp knock on the door. Damien's expression immediately shifted, becoming hard and alert. The tender alpha was gone, replaced by the dangerous crime boss. What is it? He called out. Sir, we have a situation. It was Marcus, one of Damien's top men. Victor Hardwick is here. He's demanding to see you. He has 20 men with him. My blood turned to ice. Victor was here. Actually here, at Damien's mansion. After everything, he'd found me. Damien was already moving, pulling on clothes with swift efficiency. How did he find out? Your assumption was wrong, sir. Marcus's voice was grim. Kieran's parents did tell Hardwick where he was. They sold that information to clear part of their debt. Hardwick's been planning this assault for days. My parents. Even after everything, they'd betrayed me one final time. The pain that lanced through my chest was sharp but brief. I was done letting them hurt me. "Stay here," Damien ordered, his voice leaving no room for argument. "Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone." "No." I stood up, pulling on the clothes scattered on the floor. "I'm not hiding while you fight my battle." "Kieran. He came here for me, Damien. This is my fault. I won't let you face him alone." Damien's jaw clenched, and I could see the internal war playing out on his face. Finally, he nodded sharply. "You stay behind me. At all times." "Understood." "Understood." We made our way downstairs, where Damien's men had assembled. There were at least 30 of them, all armed already. Through the large windows, I could see Victor Hardwick standing at the gate with his own small army. Victor was exactly as I'd imagined. Tall, broad, with cold eyes and a cruel smile. He looked like the kind of man who enjoyed causing pain. Just looking at him made my skin crawl. "Damien Cross." Victor's voice boomed across the property. "I know you have what belongs to me. Send out the Omega, and we can all go home peacefully." Damien stepped out onto the front terrace, and I followed despite his warning glare. The moment Victor saw me, his eyes lit up with possessive hunger that made bile rise in my throat. "There you are, little Omega." Victor's smile widened. "You've caused me quite a bit of trouble. But don't worry, I'll make sure you pay for that once you're mine." "He's not yours," Damien said, his voice cold and deadly. "He never was, and he never will be. I paid good money for him." Victor's expression darkened. "His parents made a deal. The Omega belongs to me. He's a person, not property." Damien's hand found mine, our fingers interlacing. "And he's already bonded. To me." The satisfaction I felt at Victor's shocked expression was immense. His face turned red, his hands clenching into fists. "You bonded with my Omega?" he snarled. "Do you have any idea what you've done? I will destroy you for this, Cross." "You can try." Damien's voice was calm, but I could feel the rage simmering beneath the surface through our bond. "But before you do, there's something you should know. While you were planning this little assault, I was making moves of my own." He pulled out his phone and made a call, putting it on speaker. "Detective Morrison? We're ready." "Copy that, Mr. Cross," a woman's voice responded. "Units are moving in now." Victor's confident expression faltered. "What is this?" "This is me taking you down," Damien said with cold satisfaction. "See, I've been investigating your operations for months. Human trafficking, illegal Omega trade, drug smuggling. I have evidence of everything. And Detective Morrison here has been very interested in bringing you to justice." The sound of sirens filled the air. Police cars came from every direction, surrounding Victor and his men. Victor's face went pale as he realized he was trapped. "You set me up," he breathed. "You made it easy," Damien replied. "Coming here, threatening me on my property, admitting in front of witnesses that you bought a human being. You just confessed to multiple felonies." Police officers swarmed Victor's men, weapons drawn. Victor tried to run, but he didn't make it 3 steps before he was tackled to the ground. I watched as they put handcuffs on him, reading him his rights. The man who was supposed to own me, who would have destroyed me, was now facing decades in prison. "It's over," Damien said quietly, pulling me against his side. "He can't hurt you now." But I barely heard him, because standing behind the police cars, I saw my parents. They were in handcuffs too, looking terrified and small. Officers were leading them towards separate police cars. "What about them?" I asked, my voice hollow. "Conspiracy to commit human trafficking," Damien explained. "When they sold information about your location to Hardwick, they implicated themselves in his crimes." Detective Morrison was very interested in that detail. I should have felt something. Satisfaction, maybe, or vindication. But all I felt was empty. These people who were supposed to love me had chosen money over their own son, again and again. And now they would pay the price. My mother saw me watching and started screaming. "This is all your fault. You ruined everything. We did everything for you, and you destroyed us." Even now, she couldn't take responsibility. Even now, she blamed me. "Do you want to talk to them?" Damien asked gently. "Say goodbye." I thought about it for a long moment. Then I shook my head. "No. They stopped being my parents the day they decided to sell me. I have nothing to say to them." Damien pressed a kiss to my temple. "Then let's go inside. This circus doesn't need us anymore." We turned our backs on my parents, on Victor, on the entire nightmare that had been my old life. As we walked back into the mansion, I felt lighter than I had in years. All the weight I'd been carrying, All the pain and fear and worthlessness was finally lifting. What happens now? I asked as we reached the stairs. Damien stopped and turned to face me, his hands framing my face. Now we build a life together. A real life. You're my bonded mate, Kieran. That means your family. You belong here, with me, for as long as you want to stay. Forever, then, I said without hesitation. I want to stay forever. He smiled, a real genuine smile that transformed his entire face. Forever it is. 3 months later, I stood in front of a mirror, barely recognizing the person staring back at me. I'd gained weight, my face no longer gaunt and hollow. My eyes were bright and clear. I looked healthy, happy, loved. Rosa bustled around behind me, adjusting the collar of my new shirt. Mr. Cross is waiting for you in his office. He said it's important. I made my way through the mansion that had become my home. Damien's men nodded respectfully as I passed. They'd accepted me as Damien's mate, as part of the family. I'd even started helping Rosa with household management, finding purpose in making this place a real home. Damien looked up when I entered, and his face softened in that way it only did for me. Come here, he said, holding out his hand that I took it, letting him pull me into his lap. What's so important? I have news. He handed me a document. Your parents accepted a plea deal. They'll serve 5 years each. Victor Hardwick got 30 years with no possibility of parole. Justice. Finally, after everything, there was justice. And there's something else. Damien pulled out a small velvet box. I know we're already bonded, but I wanted to make it official in the human way too. He opened the box to reveal a simple silver ring. Kieran, will you marry me? Tears streamed down my face as I threw my arms around his neck. Yes. 1,000 times yes. As he slipped the ring onto my finger, I realized something profound. I'd run away from people who saw me as worthless and ended up in the arms of someone who saw me as priceless. My nightmare had led me to my fairy tale, and I would never take that for granted. I love you, I whispered against his lips. I love you too, he whispered back. My Omega, my mate, my everything. And finally, after 22 years of feeling unwanted, I knew what it was like to be loved.